Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise awakening, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken in life. Rise awakening, now is the time.
Rise Awakenings, let's rise together.
Feel the hum beneath your skin, a pulse of light, let it begin. The night dissolves, the day will spin. Rise awakenings, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken and climb. Rise awakenings, now is the time. Echoes bloom, they bend and glide, a signal surging deep inside. From shadows grip, we rise and rise. Tune the whispers, find your way. Tomorrow starts with sound today. Rise awakenings, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken and climb. Rise awakenings, now is the time. Start with the quiet parts, the things you hide behind your laugh. Sit with the ache a while. Let every question breathe and ask, who was I trying to be? Who am I when I just stay? Name every tender scar and let them have their say. This is the blue from the soil of your sorrow, petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This
you playing small. Lay them out on the floor, see which ones never fit at all. Offer your younger self a kindness you never knew. Whisper you're safe with me and feel it turning true. This is the bloom from the soil of your sorrow. Petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the blue. In the shadow you found treasure, in the breaking you found room. Every tear became a river, watering what's coming through. Now you rise not as perfection, but as someone deeply real. Every part you tried to silence learns it's finally allowed to heal. The stars are bloom from the soil of your sorrow. Petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the This is the blue. Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bloom. If you're new here, the content shared in this podcast is based on my personal experience and the knowledge I've gained along my educational and healing journeys. The information is shared in the greatest degree of love and is intended to resonate with whoever it may to assist in your healing journey. Please feel free to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And remember, this is a judgment-free, safe space, so please refrain from any form of bullying, harassment, or toxic behavior. If you cannot hold space with us, you will be removed. Chat questions will be answered in the order in which they are received, and in relation to the topic, I will get to as many as time allows. And to the man behind the curtain, Micah, Papa, aka Papa, thank you for putting the questions on the screen and doing your behind the scenes thingy. The show wouldn't happen without you. And if you feel called deeper dive into your own personal growth and evolution, I am a transformational coach, trauma specialist, a Reiki master teacher, and a fully ordained minister. I am so honored to be your guide through your specific needs. So go ahead and book your time with me on healingrose.org and let us dive into today's topic. So today I wanted to talk about limiting beliefs and how to return to our loving alignment. All right, let's get started. There's a lot to cover today. So start thinking about what kind of limiting beliefs you have as I'm talking. We're not lost because we're broken. We're lost because we're taught to forget. From an early age, we are shaped by systems that tell us who to be. Society assigns roles. Culture defines success. Religion prescribes worth. Slowly, subtly, we learn to perform instead of listen. We work to survive, pay bills, to meet expectations. We adapt, we comply. We fit ourselves into boxes never designed for our souls. In this conditioning, a quiet disconnection occurs. We become people pleasers, approval seekers, caretakers of everyone else's comfort. We mistake endurance for purpose and familiarity for truth. This is not familiar, this is programming, it's conditioning. And what is programmed can be unlearned. Beneath all of this conditioning lives something untouched, a spark, your flame, a remembering. Within us exists a natural rhythm, a talent, a passion, a way of being that feels unmistakably right. This isn't something that we learn or achieve. It's something we are born carrying. Our unique genius does not shout, it hums softly, patiently, waiting for us to turn inward and listen. When we align with it, our body relaxes, our heart opens, and life begins to flow with less resistance. We're never meant to live small. Each of us arrives here as an expression of something vast and sacred, infinitely unique, inherently worthy, and capable of growth beyond imagination. We are not here to remain trapped in fear or doubt. We are here to expand, create, and to love, and to express our truth fully. Yet the weight of conditioning often pulls us away from this knowing. Self doubt creeps in, fear, judgment, and shame become familiar companions. These lower vibrations do not define us, but they do obscure our light. Awareness is the turning point. When we begin to observe our thoughts, regulate our emotions, and question the beliefs we inherited, the spell starts to break. We recognize which stories were handed to us and which ones were never ours to carry. In this recognition, we begin the sacred work of unlearning. We loosen our grip on narratives rooted in scarcity, punishment, and unworthiness. We make space for truth. This is the process of unbecoming. We release who we were told to be so we can return to who we already are. We soften our relationships with ourselves, replacing harsh comparison with compassion. We stop measuring our worth against external standards. We set boundaries, not as walls, but as acts of self respect. We honor our sensitivity, our creativity, our difference. Courage is built gently, not through force, but through devotion to a small aligned actions. Each day, we take one step towards what feels true. A moment of creative expression, an honest conversation, an act of care toward ourselves. Affirmations, self love practices, and emotional awareness become anchors, not obligations. We learn to move with ourselves instead of against ourselves. As one person remembers who they are, something shifts. Growth is not isolated, it ripples outwards. When one person blooms, they give others permission to bloom too. We are not meant to heal alone. We are meant to hold space for one another and grow side by side, like a garden nourished by shared light and care. Every insight becomes a compass. Each realization clarifies what belongs and what does not. And when we align more fully with our truth, abundance flows naturally, not just in material form, but as peace, joy, clarity, and opportunity. Life begins to meet us where we stand, open, receptive, and rooted in love. May this remembering dissolve old stories, and may it gently undo what was never true. And may each of us step forward unprogrammed, aligned, and radiant. And I would love to dive in deeper with you on what limiting beliefs you still recognize that you carry. Yes, conditioning and programming can be unlearned. And the parts about limitations is we discover as we go along. And a lot of what helps us discover our limitations as we go along is expanding our knowledge to include other people's perspectives that you wouldn't normally even talk to begin with. That includes conversations that you're uncomfortable with because it's not the same and not aligned with your upbringing and conditioning. Expanding the overall effects and impact of those beliefs on those around you and yourself. certainly the word no is a limiting belief, right? How many of us survivors of trauma have heard the word no our entire lives? You can't do this, you're not allowed that, you're not good enough. No, 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 no. That's a huge limiting belief for a lot of us. Family expectations definitely put huge, massive limitations on us. Thank you, Michael. We do need to recognize one bit of information at a time, what it is that we need to unlearn for ourselves. So I guess I repeat it that way in order to say, you catch yourself judging yourself. You catch yourself judging others when we're practicing this conscious analysis of the information that we've been given since birth. If you think about it, when we're born, we get this like SKU code or whatever you call it, the QR code that's, you're this religion, this is how you got to act, you're going to have this belief system, this is how you treat people. The list goes on and on. Our origin family is our first teacher, and that's not necessarily the healthiest for a lot of folks because we're still, as a society and as a whole, coming out of some really horrible ideas because we have the internet available to us, and our expansion is so much more at our fingertips now than it ever was. Michael says, having honest conversations. How do you get better at those and move past the fear of losing someone when being honest about how something is making you feel, or at least getting past the fear of having them and not avoiding them until so much time has? Okay, so there has to be an understanding and an acknowledgement. You may lose people. And to what degree you will lose them depends on how that interaction goes and how their response is. But the reality is if you're losing people, they're not your people, or you're just not aligned, especially like when it's family. Sometimes you can't help where they're at, and they don't have the capacity or the mindset to move forward. So you sharing your truth might land on deaf ears or ears that are incapable of processing what you're saying. And you might distance yourself. So it may not be a total loss or a total no contact, but it may be okay, you stay over there. I'm going to minimize and limit my interaction with that because that isn't a healthy energy for me to be in. There is no guarantee. So it's a matter of gently giving yourself the courage and making sure that you're presenting yourself from a peaceful state of being and not the triggered state of being when you're having communication and conversation. So if you're coming in truth, relevance, kindness, respect, I'm adding respect onto my truth, relevance, kindness gate, then you will be able to navigate through. And be aware of the initial effects of stepping into alignment. They can cause the immediate feeling of going back to the program state. Absolutely. Thank you, Micah. We don't want to go backwards. We want to try to move ourselves carefully forwards. And by carefully forwards, I mean learning what healthy communication sounds like before having that conversation. Practice the conversation in your head so that you can reduce and diminish the trigger that's happening in your body so that you don't have a mind eraser event. Because when we're triggered in the heat of something, our brain goes blank, right? That happens to a lot of us. So practicing that conversation ahead of time so that you can make sure you're not coming off as something that they need to defend, if you will. So if you're coming from the right space and place and they're not receiving you, understand that's a high possibility with a lot of circumstances and situations. You have to make peace with that in order to not revert back to old programming and old conditioning and old responses. You have to first make peace with the possibility there will be a distance or a loss when there's not alignment. Michael says, well, recently it's been a person who I met that we've gained some traction and as a music group and trying to tell him how he's making me feel not heard or seen, even though I've said it outright. It still happens, and I just shut down instead of handling it. Okay. So there's a few different ways you can address this. If he's not hearing you, you might have to tell him I hear what you're saying, because when folks are not hearing you, it's because their trauma, underlying that trauma, is they may not have felt heard themselves. So they're blind to others' perspectives because they're so worried about being heard. So the first approach is, I hear what your perspective is, and I appreciate that. I'm going to share what my experience and perspective is so we can come up with somewhere in between. And maybe perhaps acknowledging and validating his perspective first might open the door for him to change his ears, take off the trauma ears and put on the openness ears, if that helps. There's also, you guys are all on social media. There's some great like communicators on social media. There's a handle called How to Convince with Lawyer Vince. And he does all kinds of like great ways. If you're trying to say this to somebody, here's how you say it without, you know what I mean? So look up How to Convince with Lawyer Vince. There's also Conflict-ish. That's another handle. And that gentleman is a conflict resolution. He was actually a hostage negotiator at one point. So he gives great information on how to communicate in circumstances that are imbalanced. That individual there may not have the capacity to hear you. And so then you have to decide if that's worth the energy. But then when I do finally reach a place where I feel like I can speak on it calmly, he'll come back with another inflammatory statement that sends me in another spiral. Okay. It sounds as though he feels like he has to defend himself and prove himself. That's what it feels like from what you're saying. Then he may not have the capacity. You may be at a different space and place in your journey than he is, and he may not have the capacity. All you can do is share what you feel energetically you're able to share, and then back away. But in order to pause yourself, you first have to remember, who am I talking to? What do I expect from them? A limiting belief also involves your expectations of someone else. The projected expectations that we have place limitations on our experience because we're limiting someone else to what we expect them to be for us without taking into consideration their capacity. Now, that being said, it doesn't sound like he's a safe space for you to land because you are struggling with not spiraling. So this is where I'm saying, remind yourself who you're talking to. Remind yourself you're worthy of being heard. I own my own issue, that I am bipolar and can fly off the handle, and have admitted that. I just feel like it's hurt and changes. It's hard. I'm not sure I'm understanding. Feel like it's heard and changes for me, maybe a week. Okay, gotcha. And it goes right back to what it was. Okay, gotcha. So when you're, wait, for you it changes or for the person? Because if they're inconsistent, that's an issue because it's going to trigger you. If your ability to handle the responses is inconsistent, then do that practicing conscious awareness of self and making sure that you pause yourself. Hitting the pause button is your best friend. So I'm not sure, I might need you to clarify that one for me a little bit, so that I could make sure I got you in the right space and place. Yeah, I just feel like I'm losing an opportunity that I haven't had before to live a dream I've had my whole life and not sure I'll ever get the chance again. So I feel like I'm losing that on top of it. So it's hard. It's been hard walking away. Okay. Oh, well, this is a beautiful example of a limiting belief. Why do you feel as though this is the only way you're going to achieve that dream and won't get any other chances? Who says? Maybe this is just a taste and a momentum flow for you for something that is even greater and more aligned for you. So that's a mindset shift in order to open your heart to being in alignment with yourself. Staying in the limiting belief that you hold of losing the opportunity will hold you into that space. That's right. Yes, 100%. So don't think that way. That's a good limiting belief that you can get rid of. You can throw that one in the dumpster with the rest of them and set them on fire. You don't need to worry about that, because what is meant for you will align for you. And because of the fact that this is a challenge, it's not aligned. So it's redirecting you into another avenue that is greater than you can imagine yourself. I hope that makes sense. Bubble Kitten says, learning it's okay to think for myself has been a thing. Yes. That my knowledge and understanding doesn't have to be limited by the expectations of what my parents had. Absolutely. Oh, and that is the greatest lesson for all of us. We've all received a lovely gift of generational trauma. So it is important for us to be open-minded and recognize that perhaps the intel that we received in the software that's programmed into our brains was not the healthiest, seeing as how, historically speaking, the times that have been surrounding it, not pretty. So realizing that it's okay for us not to agree with and align with our parents, accepting that about ourselves, fully accepting that about ourselves, and giving ourselves permission to be our own person that doesn't align with the family. That's okay. That's okay. And that's something that is going to receive pushback. It's going to be a challenge for you to navigate through, but you can't be aligned with who you are meant to be on this planet at this time if you're carrying and wearing someone else's clothes. That's what you're doing. Lunaria says, this is why I stayed in shitty relationships thinking it was my only chance, but being miserable in relationship is not better than being alone. Absolutely. Oh, goodness. I see life as a science experiment. I talked about this yesterday in my Sunday circle. Life is one big science experiment, and I treat mine like it's a sitcom. It's mostly funny because I choose to be playful and joyful, and the rest is just, sometimes difficult experiences because I'm experimenting as I go along. I don't know what I'm going to feel or experience unless I try it. And if I'm too concerned about how I'm going to be received or rejected, I won't move forward at all. So I allow myself to see everything as like a little science experiment in life. All right, well, let me try talking. Let me try saying it this way. Let me try saying it that way. Okay, that didn't work. And if it doesn't work and the person has value and deserves your energy, you can go back and call yourself out and say, hey, you know what? I said things this way and it didn't feel right to me. So I need to fix that. And my intention was to express this and not to make you feel that in any kind of way. So there's a way to go and have accountability if you're not comfortable with how you express something. It's never like, nothing's ever over and done if you still feel like you can do something with it. And if we're not going to get into that topic because I'm talking about how to align yourself, but we can go off on branches with this one. Cash Angel says, I feel like the hardest thing was accepting that they wouldn't feel respected. And then I saw they're not the ones to decide how I respect someone. And I'll add to that, Cash Angels, that they haven't shown you respect. So it's kind of silly to demand respect when you don't give respect. And that's not how respect works. Respect is earned. And so from where you're coming from, you haven't been respected either. So their idea of respect may differ from yours because yours is coming from an open, heart-centered space, and theirs is coming from their limited beliefs and values based on what society, culture, and religion has told them is respectful. I hope that helps. Michael says, music was something I never shared with anyone because it was mine, my safe space. I hoarded it so I would have the safe space. And putting myself out there is scary because of the fear and rejection and losing the safe space because of it. Absolutely. So the fear that we hold is the limiting belief. Fear is the biggest limiting belief that we have. It's all learning to be afraid so that we can be controlled. So do we want to be controlled or do we want to liberate ourselves and live to our fullest capacity, not caring about the rejection not caring about other people's opinions. And the best way to align yourself with that is to accept yourself fully and completely and love everything about yourself and be able to say something about it when somebody says something to you. If somebody has some kind of comeback or something to say about it, okay, music is very subjective. You don't have to resonate with my music. There are people who do, and I'm not for you. Thanks for letting me know we don't resonate. It's okay. they can they can move on, because what's the point of um, being cruel to reject somebody? There's really no value in that for anyone, not even for that person. So don't take what has no value as truth. That's not your truth. What your truth is your artistic expression and the pride that you feel inside of your artistic expression, because there are plenty of folks who will resonate with you. You can't make everyone happy. It's not possible. Okay? So the fear of that is underlying all of that. You're basically afraid of being rejected by people you don't even want to be rejected. You don't even want friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they're not right for you, why do you even care what they think? So shift your mindset into that understanding for yourself. Cash angels, do you think that someone will find in combination with being, wait, what's FND? I'm not sure I know. FND with, oh, functional neurological disorder and highly sensitive. Okay, gotcha. All right, put the question back up. Okay, do you think that someone with neurological dysfunction and with being HSP is harder to align? It's more work to maintain the conscious awareness of self and the presence with yourself. It's not, I don't know, I don't want to say harder, because when you're practicing that self-love, life's not hard. Life is smooth. To integrate alignment for that, the feelings are thinner when they're noticed, or should it be easier? I don't know if it's a matter of easier or harder. It's a matter of how you approach it and how you choose to approach it. So when we're coming from that heart-centered space of learning about ourselves with huge amounts of compassion and zero judgment towards ourselves, yes, we can integrate and we can be aligned. And that is just going to mean more conscious awareness of self, more analysis, more intentional presence and actions, without judgment, though, because what makes life hard is how we feel about ourselves, and how, if we treat ourselves like crap and we feel like shit about ourselves and we're not nice to ourselves and gentle with ourselves, that's going to be the problem. That's what makes things hard or easy. So let's separate those two and just understand the work level that I have to do as a neurodivergent person is going to be the different than the work level that you're going to have to do with what you have going on. And how we respond to our each unique individual challenges is going to be easier when we approach ourselves from that learning space of love. I hope that makes sense. Okay, where am I at here? Let's see, what do we got? We've got Michael. Let's see. Michael says, a host says, part of the issue is functional neurologists or HSPs that we tend to be more highly empathic because our own emotions, this is why you have to know yourself. Yeah, the feeling isn't ours. This is why you have to get to know yourself. Thank you, Micah. You have to, you're never late, Angel Eyes. You have to get to know yourself. And part of the aligning yourself is the self-discovery process. That self-discovery can't happen if you continue the self-sabotage. So like the self-doubt has to go away, all the fears have to go away, all the understanding that was drilled into you. You got to give yourself a clean slate in order to get to know yourself and decide for yourself what you align with, decide for yourself who you want to be and who you are. So that will certainly take into account the understanding that you're absorbing from other people. So make sure you give yourself some alone time. Be comfortable and happy in your own space and energy so that you can feel what you feel like when you're relaxed, when you're completely regulated, when you're at peace. So this way, if you know you're good and you're around situations that make you feel off, it's easier for you to identify this isn't mine. Okay? Know thyself, as they say. And allow yourself to set boundaries with yourself, and tell yourself, I will not accept any lower vibrational energies that are not aligned with who I am as a person into my space. And you could say stuff like that, whether it's talking to your angels, guides, God, whatever you want to do, just speak it into existence as a boundary for yourself so that you can help yourself with better understanding what belongs to you and what doesn't. It's a process, and it's not an overnight process. And each time you experience something, you have a new opportunity to be very consciously aware of where you're at and why this thing is disturbing your peace. And maybe it's a trigger for you to recognize this is something familiar that I need to illuminate and love a little bit more for myself. Self-discovery is at the core, and underneath that core is the foundation of awareness. Alignment cannot happen without awareness and self-discovery, so that you can be aligned. You do find your path. You do understand who belongs in your life and who doesn't. When you're doing it lovingly and with compassion and releasing all the limiting beliefs and the self-sabotaging behaviors that are very limiting, you get to have more opportunities unfold for you. And abundance comes in all forms. So understand that this isn't just affecting your emotional and mental health and wellness, to get rid of these limitations. Getting rid of limitations opens up doors for you. So it's also a manifestation thing to be aligned. Let's see. What basic tips would you give people to get back in alignment? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is question everything. That's a great way to get back in alignment. Check in with yourself often, analyze your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, and ask yourself deeply, does this truly resonate with my heart, resonate with my soul, and is something that's productive and healthy for me as in this human experience as a human being? So questioning everything is a great start, and questioning everything with the understanding that we're going to do this as a clean slate. Like, I don't know how many of you were kids and were allowed to say do over, right? Give yourself that permission every single time you're analyzing something, so that you give yourself that clean slate to decide if you need to adopt something new and implement that. It's that check-in, that constant check-in. That's the conscious awareness of self. Consciously deciding to check in. That's what's going to get you there. Michael said, thank you. I guess the roots are just a lot deeper than I thought, and digging them out is taking more than I originally thought. And just projecting an expectation of what the healing process and the roots and how deep they are looks like is also a limiting belief. So here's another one we can throw in that dumpster and set on fire together. We don't know what we don't know. So openness includes everything, really, really everything, including not putting parameters around what our healing is supposed to look like. Somebody taught me years ago, or I had a vision years ago while somebody was teaching me something of myself in my own jail cell. And all those bars were my limiting beliefs. And so what I learned was to visually remove one of those jail cell bars. Just by touching them, they dissolve and they were gone. And so little by little, is this another bar in my jail cell? Nope. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it. So just reminding yourself that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to grow and evolve. It's okay to see things differently when you're presented with new perspectives. That will help you start over, if you will, if you need to. And it's not always the complete start over. Sometimes it's just this particular topic I'm going to start over on. I'm a recovering conservative. I grew up Catholic, an extremely conservative and oppressive religion, culture, and society. But that's not where I live anymore. I had to change my life. There are physical vagus nerve resets that you can do in the moment of a trigger to bring the body back to feel a sense of safeness. Yes, there are. So you can do physical stuff on top. There's the ice cube method on the cold spots. There's the whatchamacallit, the pressure points. There's a pressure point here. There's pressure points behind there. There's different exercises you can do with your eyes, like there's just Google the vagus nerve reset. There's so many body tricks that we can do. It's mind blowing. It's kind of fun to learn about all the different ways we can get our bodies back. There's tapping, like there's so many techniques out there. So this is where expansion, get more tools in your toolbox. There's the grounding method too, naming objects in your environment and naming the senses that go along with those objects if you are in a high alert panic kind of mode in that moment. Michael says, and truly being open instead of blinding people with oversharing what I want them to see so they ignore what I don't want them to process as well. Yeah. So oversharing is something that often comes from not feeling heard. And when we're not feeling heard, we often attract individuals who don't feel heard also. So this is where that self-love piece and that alignment piece is validating yourself, hearing yourself, not having to prove yourself to anyone for any reason, not having to over-explain yourself to anyone for any reason. It's also a very neurodivergent trait because we feel more palatable because people don't understand what our brain is thinking. And it's hard to understand what a neurodivergent brain is thinking if you don't have a neurodivergent brain. So there's also that. So we tend to sometimes overshare for context because we believe that we're more palatable as people with context. We don't need to think that way. And if somebody has a follow-up question because they're interested, that means they were listening. You're fine. You'll get people who listen when you don't project the need to be heard with the oversharing. I hope that helps. And there's no shame in it. It's just an understanding of like, oh, is that one of my patterns that might be? So just understand the patterns that you're seeing within yourself and decide which ones that you're going to keep and which ones you're going to toss aside. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? There's a recent mask I realized I was putting. I didn't even notice I was doing until recently. Still a mask, but not a lot of people know about. Yeah. And a lot of us mask all the time, don't we? That's kind of a tough one, isn't it? Because there are certain circumstances in which you can't be your fullest, right? Like you got to be professional at work. You know what I mean? Like it's an obvious one, being professional at work. There's certain things that are not acceptable and not professional at the office or job or whatever situation your employment is in. So I understand the mask. So when we're analyzing our masks, we have to ask ourselves, how do I marry my authenticity in a format that is acceptable in that arena so that my mask isn't a full opaque, can't see through it kind of a thing. It's more of a transparent, okay, well, this is me, but I'm still professional, right? I'm using employment because it's the most vague and obvious, if that makes sense. Breaking the habit of, are you talking about breaking the habit of wearing masks? Well, I mean, I feel like masks especially for neurodivergence, is something that's used as a tool. Let's shift the perspective on a mask. Sometimes, like employment, it's necessary. It's not like, oh, you're not being authentic. It's how do you be authentic and navigate through that circumstance at the same time without overstepping in that circumstance and situation. And so Bubble Kitten says, how do you unmask around your abuser without coming across as an arse? Anything that you do around your abuser is going to be taken as you're a horrible person and the worst person in the world and everything's bad and wrong. So it's already right out the gate faulty because you can't win. There is no, there's, however you show up is still going to be a problem because you're with an abuser. So if nothing else, that's when you use masks as a tool so that you can keep yourself safe. And this is probably advice you'll never get anywhere else because it's like, well, how are you telling people to be? No, I'm telling you to be safe. Be safe. That's what I'm telling you to be. That's one of those circumstances where you're not safe to be authentic completely and fully because that person has made it clear to you that they don't like you, and how they treat you tells you they kind of hate you. So they're only using you and exploiting you for what you give to them. That's not even remotely balanced in any way, shape, or form. Okay. So that is a space where you would use it as a tool to keep yourself safe. I hope that's acceptable. That might be controversial, but that's what I've seen in my experience to be useful. You know? What do we got? Cash Angel says, for me, it's a constant conversation with me. Do I want this, need this, or is it easy, or addiction, or habit? That last one, the habit, also doesn't always mean that it's not alignment. What a puzzle! And when the thinking about it is gone, in combination with the inner being drawn toward, is there, I assume the habit is still in alignment. Okay. So I say, let's talk about the habits for a second, because a lot of times we get into habits that are unhealthy. And Mike and I were talking before the show about like the doom scrolling on the phone. That becomes a habit. That's not healthy. So how could we get ourselves off of those habits, and how do we know it could become healthy? Well, change your algorithm to include micro learning and educational stuff and mind expansion perspectives. And that's a way you can use that habit to your advantage, and then wean yourself off to lessen the time that you're doing it. So set boundaries and parameters around, and then it'll align more to who you are and your needs. If you don't want to be on it altogether, you can take a vacation from it. That's fine. And some addictions and habits are just toxic for you. So replace them with something that is healthy. And so there's that addiction replacement therapy, I like to call it. Made that up. Because I say whatever thing that you're doing repeatedly that's unhealthy and keeping you stuck and sabotaging you, pause yourself when you catch yourself with the desire to go and do that, and immediately implement something else. So what you're going to do proactively is have things lined up for yourself instead of that you're going to shift and redirect yourself to. So it's already set up for you, and it's not the whole, oh, well, I got to go set it up and it's not worth all the effort. Preemptively do it. That's proactively helping yourself for when that comes up again. Okay. I hope that helps, because it's rewiring ourselves. Michael says, I haven't finished learning the brain code, so I can go in and edit the element tree to change the code in my head, but I'm learning that now. Oh yes, we can rewire our brain. That's what all of this healing work is. This healing work is rewiring and creating new neural networks and exercising your neural plasticity. Brain damage occurs with long-term abuse, and many of us have experienced a lot of abuse in our lives, no matter what age we're at, because of just how society and stuff is, around us. So give yourselves the opportunity to understand and accept. Sometimes it's a matter of acceptance, because some of these concepts sound so foreign. We can make new brain cells. Our bodies are self-healing and self-regenerating, and each part of us has a cycle. We can continuously, on a daily basis, create new neural pathways and exercise our neuroplasticity to heal trauma based on proactively and consciously becoming aware of ourselves and practicing all these new tools and implementing all these new tools so that we can rewire and create those new habits. How long it takes to create a new habit is different for different people. Sometimes it takes 30 days, sometimes it takes 90 days. There's no judgment, and different habits are going to take different amounts of time. I like to use that the analogy of when you're learning a sport. Don't you, like, I'm Italian, so soccer. Let's say soccer. Don't you have to learn how to dribble the ball and kick properly at the right angle and all that? That takes practice, that takes time, and it's the same in this kind of work. It's always going to be the same level of effort in building a new skill and creating a new habit for ourselves until it turns into something that's on a regular basis. Like computers, sometimes the smallest commands can make the biggest changes to the program. Absolutely. It's giving permission to find that code that allows the changes to be made. Yes. And that's what we're doing with the self-discovery. We have to find what it is that makes us function better. Like computers. Oh, wait, I lost that. Okay. Cash Angel says, I advise to first take the upgrade and then clean up and rewire. You can do both. Anything works. It's just very individual and unique. You can absolutely do both. You can receive new information, which is why I say expand your knowledge, because without new information to put into to replace the old, you don't know what needs replacement yet. So it's kind of part of the process and necessary. Learning the rules, syntax, and built-in error codes and how to fix them in the right. This is what we're doing. We're learning how to upgrade our software with that self-alignment, with getting in touch with ourselves. And I think a lot of it has to do with learning to love ourselves to the point where we accept we're not built for mediocrity, accept that we're here to be great. We're each this divine, unique being in this human experience, in this shared human experience. And a lot of it is going to be self-acceptance first and permission first. So there's going to be a lot of these like tweaks of the thinking before we can get to the massive software upgrade. And so it's almost like we're stepping ourselves into a change of mind. We're stepping ourselves into a new way of existing. And that's how it has to happen so that it could stick. It's not going to be sustainable and maintainable if we don't step ourselves into each little micro shift that we make into our experience. Okay. Let's see what we got. Bubble Kittens. How do I get myself to feel safe and at home enough to fully unpack? I've never had the stability and the security in a space to fully feel. I can unpack, so I live ready to pack and go. Okay. So that starts with yourself. You have to become the safe space for yourself and have your own back. That's how we can start. We have to make ourselves feel safe. We have to relax our nervous system, and that a lot of that has to do with setting boundaries with people as well as with ourselves, so that we don't make a repeat of the same patterns, that we have the courage. It has to come from that space of, okay, I'm going to be courageous and believe in myself and allow myself to do something that's really scary and could go bad. But I need to learn how I'm going to respond to that so that I know if it's aligned or not. Right? So these are the conversations we're going to have with ourselves. Trusting that you have your own back, trusting that you've always chosen yourself, trusting that you know who you are at your core as you're self-discovering, because you'll feel it. So trusting you are the safe space for you and you've got your own back, and practicing speaking and communicating in ways that speaks your truth firmly and kindly so that you set boundaries. Okay? Understanding you're not here to people please anymore. That's not what you're here to do at all. That's part of the limiting beliefs and the conditioning and the programming. You must Release that from yourself. Free yourself. Take one of those jail bars off. Michael says, I am who I am. You can like it, or, well, any other response is a you problem I have control over. I have control over. Okay. A you problem I have control over, so I'm not going to try to fix it. Okay, gotcha. I understand what you meant. I'm enough for me. That's right. And that's all I have to worry about. That's right. You are enough for yourself. That's what I figured you meant. No control over. Thank you for clarifying. We can blame all kinds of things on our current circumstance and situation, but that doesn't mean we can't help ourselves make it a little bit better and do a little bit more to help ourselves and set ourselves up for whatever success that we have the capacity to have with whatever it is that we're navigating through. Because there's, I have physical limitations. We have a few minutes left for questions. So one more question. If you want to squeeze one more in, we'll talk for 3 more minutes. But don't limit your beliefs about who you are. Give yourself a chance to discover who you are. Like, clean slate every day, clean slate. Today is a new day for me to learn new things. And this is a new moment for me to practice new things that are healthier and more aligned. And if they're not aligned after you practice them and it didn't feel right, tweak it. Just keep tweaking. Remember, life is a science experiment and you're the scientist. Try it out. Change the variables to get different results and outcomes without judgment, without shame, no limiting beliefs. Okay? We may not have any more questions. We shall see. But I just want you guys to understand that the limiting beliefs are something to really take a good look at so that you can understand where you're misaligned and not to have any shame around it. What are you saying? I blame my functional neurological disorder disease on that rewiring. I'm too stubborn to call it failed. They're growing like infants to baby, etc. Yeah. And honestly, are they stubborn? Or is it just how your physical body is doing its thing? And that's one of the things that you're navigating through in this human vessel that we're in. So fully accepting where your body's at and what your body's needs are, that's really what's important. So compassion, self-compassion, not holding yourself to something that's unrealistic because of this, she says. I did them all the time, wasn't here anymore until I got my seizures. Right. Seizures, it's a massive challenge to navigate through. So all you can do is accept what your body's doing and help it. That's it. And that's got to be okay. We all have something going on. I have physical limitations and flexibility limitations now. I have movement issues. And I'm accepting fully and completely where I'm at, but I'm also micro doing little tiny things to try to help myself exercise and expand. Practice giving yourself permission to rewire outside of the moments when you aren't in alignment. Right. Compassion is at the root and the core and the foundation of self-discovery. Okay? Hope that all helps. Yes. Oh, I'm glad you're aware. Yes. Oh, thank goodness. That is a plus. That's a bonus. That's something that you can work with. Okay? Because it would be other issues if you blacked out completely. I understand that very clearly. So I'm grateful you have an opportunity to practice as best you can for yourself. Okay. Yes. And I thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lunaria. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the chat. What a great chat today. This has been quite an amazing show. Thank you for your presence. And I'm grateful that everyone got something out of it, it seems. So I'm going to be here again next week. Thank you. Find me on healingrose.org. If you're ever in the local Columbus area, please hit me up. I would love to meet you. And I do local stuff around here. I host a Sunday circle. I doing a kava talks tomorrow at a local kava joint, which is basically talking on different topics. So like you can come find me here. I take clients in my house. So or online because you can book sessions on Zoom. So find me on the socials, and I love you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right path. We got this. We're growing together.
From the soil of your sorrow, petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the This is the blue.
Hey, this is Brindle Wolf.
And I'm Lunaria.
You're listening to Rise Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise awakening, hear the call. Through the shining, we break the wall. Your nation, your voice, where dreams awaken. Fly. Rise awakening, now is the dawn.
Rise Awakenings. Let's rise together.